Let's call this meeting to order. Roll, please.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you to everybody who joined us tonight for our one thing on the agenda, which is 2024 budget discussion. Kent, start us off, please, sir.
Well, we presented you a budget, and now I'm a little bit confused, but I'm sure Mary will correct me. I thought we had a budget that was presented to you, and we did it over 2 meetings. We had the general fund and then the other ad valorem funds at the meeting 2 meetings ago. And then we presented the utility funds basically, and then the remainder of funds a week ago. We basically presented you a budget with that required about 53 and change mills, and that's why I have a little puzzled look, because on that worksheet I'm looking at it says 56, so I'm a little confused at that. But it was 53 mills or so.
So this was not 56, it's 53.
53 is what we had. There might have been something that changed that.
On the initial presentation, we had 56.764, and I have a note on here, if funded as presented.
Oh, okay.
From the initial presentation.
And we knew that was too much, but it was also showing you. And then last meeting, we gave you a list of what its staff had proposed as far as recommendations. And to adjust the general fund. And that was a total of $326,000 worth of cuts of what was proposed. And that got us down to the 47.876, which is actually lower than last year's budget, but it does not reach the R&R. And we had asked, staff had asked the commission at last meeting whether staff should look at additional recommendations for cuts to get down to the R&R. And the general consensus of the commission was that no, we were not going to try to reach the R&R. And then after a little bit of further discussion, the mayor recommended that we meet on this night to discuss the budget further after all the things that were presented by staff, and to take a look at different things. And during the last week, both Mary and myself and other folks have been involved a little bit. We had looked through these recommended cuts and then different things that might be a priority to put back in if the commission so chose. And I can review this by department, or does anybody have some initial comments or responses at this time?
Let's say go through department up.
I guess I have one question. Did we do the cuts? Was it based off did you guys just do like a percentage? I think I asked a little bit about this with Mary before we started, and she stated that it wasn't in any sense of a priority list. So I guess I was wondering if you guys just kind of did an overall percentage of if we do this percent on each item, then we can meet the 329 or whatever the cut is.
I misunderstood you. I'm sorry. I thought you meant this list. It wasn't in priority order.
Oh, okay.
So I'm sorry. I misunderstood you.
So it is in somewhat of a priority.
No.
No, it's still not. But
Okay.
It was listed by department, and identifying certain things, whether it would affect operations or whether it could be delayed a year, and what could be realistically be done.
So this is from each department head, just kind of,
No, it really wasn't by department head, it was by senior staff.
Okay. okay, sorry, I'm just trying to figure out.
And looking at different things to be able to do. And what could be a possibility. One of the first things we did was looking at some of the amounts in 2023. You'll notice that on some of the line items, it states 2023, so that's this year's budget. What realistically can be done. And it's usually on items that will not affect any department. So those sometimes are easy adjustments or cuts. And then are doing the same in 2024, whether it's revenue items. And the total amount of the revenue items on that worksheet, after I bring it down, or differences in that, was about 53,500 was the different revenue items that were involved. And then the items that were involved on the expenditure side were about 272,000. Now in the revenue category at the start, which is the first one listed, you can see the items in there, increasing the sales tax 10,000 in this year's budget, which is based on our current receipts of the revenues for the sales tax. We think that's still a conservative number. And now Josh has it up on the screen. In 2024, increasing the sales tax by 25,000, which is still 5,000 less than this year's projected result. We don't want to overestimate sales tax, because that can get you in a world of hurt, obviously, if it really falls off. But we still think this is good numbers. We did have a reduction in the revenue. That was something that was not included in here, as far as to remove the county animal control agreement, $7,000. So that's a reduction in the revenue from the county side. And that was both in 23 and 24. Increase a little bit on other license and permits, and increase police court fines of 5,000. Most of the time they are above that figure. But again, we try to make sure it's a conservative estimate. The airport revenues, there's a slight adjustment. Increased the revenue amount by 3,000 in both 23 and 24. Now the one shaded in green up on your screen, I don't think is included in what we gave you last time. And those are two items that are 4 items total, but 2 different funds requesting changes as far as the transfer from the water fund to the general and the transfer from the sewer fund to the general. Because we have issues with the utility funds as well. And it's going back to an amount on those 2 utility funds, and would like to do it with electrical as well, the same amount that it was 2 years ago. So it's reducing by 5,000 the transfer for the water. It's reducing it from 130,000 to 125,000 in both 23 and 24, and then reducing the transfer in the sewer 10,000 from 160 to 150,000. So that affects obviously the general fund, makes our target a little further away. But it's just trying to come to a static level. Now that's obviously a decision for the commission. And we've used the utility funds, the utility fees, as a part of reducing property taxes. Now, there is some, I don't ever want to say that the utility funds don't. And that's like the franchise fee for that particular utility fund, because the front office does an awful lot of work on behalf of each utility fund.
Mhm.
So, and that's not accounted for in the water or sewer fund. So that's part of the reason why it's there. So there needs to be some sort of transfer. What that transfer amount should be, that's a decision. That's not a calculated number. It's just a number. But it's just trying to get to back to, okay, what was the level? And we increased it a little bit a couple years ago. And then reimbursement on fuel is the last two little items, increasing a little bit on that revenue source. Those are easy things to do from what was requested. Now, as far as in the administrative department,
While we're in there real quick,
sure,
just a question on the contract, the animal control agreement.
mm-hmm.
So that's a pretty significant drop in that fund there. Is that just we are not spending as much as we've been budgeting towards that agreement? Or why can we get away with such a big change there, I guess?
It's because remember last year,
We redid that animal contract, and the county did their own, and we did our own before. It all ran through the city, and we billed the county, so they reimbursed us. That's the reason for that.
Okay.
So instead of paying us, they pay directly to the provider.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. I should say yes, sorry. Bad English. In the administrative department, there was originally $52,105 in expenditure cuts. And it's the items within there. There's a lot of small items. There's also a couple larger items. Probably, it was removing the certain amount of personnel expenses. The election expense was reduced $500. The insurance was reduced. That's again, the insurance is kind of a guesstimate. Mary and I argued back and forth regarding it, and we kind of were comfortable with that figure of 115,000 instead of 120,000. But just realize if insurance would be up 15%, it might exceed that amount.
This is for health insurance.
No, this is for property, liability, umbrella.
Which went up drastically this year already.
Right, and it's going to increase next year too. It's just, okay, what's the number? And you're trying to guess basically what's the estimate they're going to give us in February or March in July. And if you can get it on the money, bet you $1 on it. But that's that amount. I probably should have my book open. What we ended up for this year. Probably we're below 110. It's like 108, 109 or something like that. What it's going to end up to be. So 115 is what we're revising it into instead of 120. I think it may even be less than 108, but don't have that amount in front of me. But that's the estimate that between Mary and myself, we decided that would be There's a couple small amounts there and reduced membership dues. The planning, eliminate the planning consultation services of about 5,000 out of that line item.
And that would be the services for,
When land use cases come about or other land use decisions, the preparation that would need to be done if those come about. Currently, we haven't had to do that just as yet. This is not the comprehensive plan part. This is
Okay.
just on land use cases.
okay,
There's an amount for options there. Reduced safety program, just a smidge. Probably the biggest amount was reduce the dispatch remodel payback from 15,000 to 10,000. Again, it just delays it a little bit. What's the final payback for that? And then eliminate the transfer for, or change the description of the city manager car to a travel car, and eliminate the MRF transfer for the travel car and trade the old cars for a better vehicle or more reasonable vehicle for more than one or two people to take. We've had it used when 3 people go to the same training or conference or whatever, and the back seats just was a problem for the people that were involved with that. So, works well for 1 or 2. I wouldn't say it worked well. It works. It works as a vehicle. So, but that's what that is, and reduced it from 4,500 to 1,000 as far as that goes. So those are the amounts within the administration. The one in yellow was, is after Mary and I had discussed it and what number trying to get to, that was the one of them decided to put back in as far as a priority when you talk about priority to put back in. But that was the only one out of admin seeing change from the original list that you received. As far as priority, doesn't mean any of the others, you know, commission could decide that that would be a higher priority to put back in. Like I said at the beginning, I don't know what the goal is for the commission or how much to put back in. So if to put back in. The next department that's listed on here, and it's just because it's the next department on within the general fund, it's not, this is not in any priority order. It's just going line item by line item, picking those things out. The police, we had some vacant positions for a short while in 2023. So we reduced the amount in 23. Again, it's choosing an item that we can adjust in the current year, makes it easier for next year's budget. Little lower on the gas and oil. That's always, it's a guesstimate as well. I think we're a little bit more confident as far as this year, 2023's amount goes. And then there was eliminate the transfer for the armory roof to the SURF. And then there was an additional amount for that, or the armory maintenance reserve is that one. The next one listed was just 2,000.
So
And
what-
then it's, I'm sorry.
so what kind of shape is the roof in currently?
Not very good.
Like, can you take a shower type of leak? Okay.
Because you see it now, I mean, it's down pretty good on the concrete now.
Yeah.
And it's not,
Is that a metal? I can't remember what it is out there. It's rock.
well, there's rocks out there, I don't know what.
It's rubber.
Yeah.
It's a rubber roof.
And it's a flat roof,
Yeah.
Yep.
so.
I mean, I don't know if it's something that, I guess it's something that we could patch, cause I mean, part of this, we have, 56,000 currently put aside for a roof and expecting another almost 25,000. If it's something that we think we can patch, to get by for an extra year or two or whatever this puts us back, that's fine, but I know, if a roof gets into a position where it's causing some serious issues, you can't just put it off another year because you just don't feel like budgeting for it.
Yeah.
That's kind of why I want to know what kind of, is it in okay condition that can be patched, or is it things get into a point where we need to seriously?
The only thing with a rubber roof that's covered with rock, once you get people up there walking on the rocks, when it's that old, you create more holes in it, and you probably should redo the whole thing when you do it. From my experience with rubber rock roofs.
And I'm not even sure, I was telling Jason that I'm not sure that's a good estimate.
Yeah,
I know how they came up with that estimate, and that was a few years ago, so I think that estimate is really low.
probably low at
I'm
this
gonna
point.
say it's probably way low.
I just know, anytime I've ever had any kind of a leak in my roof, it's never been it's only leaking a little bit, kind of a conversation I have. So, I mean, I would, because, I mean, that's a pretty easy amount for that.
Well, the current balance in the armory roof within the reserve fund is $56,250. Now, that's not enough to replace the entire roof, obviously, because it's a big facility out there. But it's how much to transfer.
You might be able to do a roofing around the gym portion, because that's a separate roof on top of that. You can work around that, you want to split it up that way.
I mean, I think that's one where I would probably want more to put that money back in there. And then also maybe see if we can't get any kind of a more current, updated estimate as to what a replacement cost would be at some point in the near future. Because I'd be willing to bet it's probably double what's sitting in there right now.
I'd even look at like doing something to, like adding like a steel roof just over the top. Like see what that's gonna take. Get both types of estimates to either redo the rubber roof or, do a steel roof over the top, and then we don't have to worry about it for a good amount of time.
What do you guys think?
Anytime you're talking about an expenditure like that, we start taking money from that and not putting it in. We're just kicking the can down the road and pushing it off our problem. It's going to be somebody else's problem. They're going to have to try and come up with that kind of money. So I would venture to say we probably need to leave that in there.
Yep.
And I think that's why it's highlighted in yellow. That's one of the ones
Right.
to put back in, so.
Yep.
There's also the transfer to equal one vehicle in the MRF, that's 25 grand. That's listed as a possibility for putting back in order to get two vehicles taken care of. And we're basically working on 2 or 3 vehicles that are approaching the 100,000 miles. So that was the reason for that.
And I know the want is to replace everything by 100,000 miles. Have any of those vehicles had any kind of serious issues at all or anything?
Yes.
Like-
They always have to pull the engine, I think on 2 or 3 of them, 2016, to replace the, liquid for the water pump. And then we just have to make positions here and there. And as far as major mechanical, the insides are fall apart, I mean, you go in and out of the vehicle, in and out of the vehicle all day long. It's pretty rough.
Mm-hmm.
comfortably on that piece. I feel like I know, wear and tear on police vehicles a little better than maybe some of my colleagues up here. We did 2 vehicles last year, and to do 2 vehicles in this year, I mean, we're replacing 4 vehicles in 2 years. That's a lot of vehicles in 2 years, and I know that, you guys are hard on them as well. That's just the kind of work that you do, but I think every force is going to have a vehicle on there that's going to be high mileage that the new guy has to drive for a while he's proven himself that that's just part of the job. So I would feel more comfortable at 1 vehicle there as opposed to 2. 4 in 2 years just seems like a lot to me.
Well, we ordered the 2 vehicles at the beginning of '22, and we didn't get them until December of '22, and actually didn't put them into service really until January and March of '23. There's on a number of supplies, some of the stuff comes up just because of what the time delay is now. But that's the only aside to it. I mean,
Yeah.
we had put it in as a recommendation at the first, as far as a recommended cut, because it's easier to get down to the level required.
Mhm.
The other item we had in police was reduce the amount for the radio replacement, 10,000 to 8,000. It was a small reduction. That also, there might be a grant possibility that the radios might get taken care of, but we haven't heard on the grant from the senator's office, and we probably won't before we finish up budget, so we can't bank on it. So that's why it's listed there. The total amount within the police was 65,000. Now, obviously, a big chunk of that is that vehicle. But then, the adjustments made, I won't say what brings that down, if both of those ones highlighted in yellow are taken care of, or one of them. Or that's your guys' decision.
Yeah, I think consensus was to add in the 10,000 back for the roof anyway. I think I kind of agree with Jason as far as the other vehicle goes for this year anyhow. I'm not sure how you guys feel, but I'm just keeping it at the 1.
In agreement.
So that puts it basically at 55,000 worth of cuts from the police. And then again, this is just from what was first presented to the
Yep.
commission. The municipal court was adjusted, and it's basically removing the personnel costs tied with retirement, if that would occur. The van transportation is just reducing the new van transfer from 23 and 24. 1,000 for each. We were also reduced on the van transportation as far as the state funding went to 90% of what was requested. They're throwing money around in all kinds of other areas, and I really stepping out of my role. It's a little more of a political comment than anything else. Why money isn't dedicated to different transportation options statewide for the people less fortunate in the community, I do not know why. But we just have to deal with it. The building inspection total, there's amounts reduced for schooling and for the MRF pickup.
You mean transportation? Or wait, no, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm on to the next
I'm
little
following now.
Well,
bit.
before we jump on to the next one, just, I don't know, just, I guess, food for thought for the commission, current fees are set at $1.50 a trip. I don't know how long they've been set at that amount, but it'd be about time to maybe raise that to $2, or is $1.50 the right amount? I'm not looking for really any kind of answer now, just kind of a food for thought as far as you know, balancing out cost expense and stuff for our new van. And I don't know what that would, you know, amount to if we raised it 50 cents. What kind of a difference it would make over a year, you know, that's something we can worry, information we can figure out later, but just food for thought, note that I'd made for myself, I would share with you guys.
Do we have a total revenue for what the transportation brings in for like last year?
Yeah, I think it was in
Is it
I
in there?
think it was like around 20,000.
Is it?
It's 27,000 and 21, it's 25,000 and 22. We'll probably end up above 22,000 was what we budgeted for this year. Because there's a lot of people that are using the service. It's busy all the time. So. And we do offer the option for people to buy groups of van passes, for lack of a better word, and hand them out to people if they can't afford it.
My calculation is a little over 14,500 people have ridden that in a year's time.
Or, yeah. Purchases.
Purchases of the,
Yeah, it's probably end up about that. It's 1,200 to 1,400 rides a month. And I think we're running above that for this year.
So if
Or
you-
this-
Yeah, that's a
this
lot.
year.
even if you raised it a quarter.
Yeah. So,
Two
two was a good round number, that's kind of
Yeah.
what I think.
Two is a very good round number.
So that'd bring another $7,000 in minimum.
Yeah,
$1.99.
but it's just a thought, so I don't even know if it would be an appropriate move or not, but just something to look into maybe into the future here.
Okay.
There was minor amounts in the reduced schooling for the building inspection. We're still able to handle that. Minor amounts for the pickup that Zach is tasked with driving. So, and we may end up with an opportunity, again, whether police vehicles or something, or a truck hand-me-down that might come to me and might go to Zach, so might take care of it, and I end up with his pickup, so don't know how that's gonna work out, that's other stuff, I'm getting off tangent here. The next big,
Well, while we're on that one, I'm just gonna keep interrupting you constantly here.
sure,
I suppose it falls under building inspection, but he had, in the notes back that he had, thought we needed to focus energies on other issues and kind of drop the housing rehab program that we had $10,000 in the budget for. I will say that I personally am not a fan of taking the 10,000 out for that program. I know we haven't had a whole lot of use in it, but I do feel like it is a good, worthwhile program if we can get people to utilize it and take that program. But so I'm gonna guess that $10,000 for that probably was not added into the original,
I believe it is in there.
huh?
I believe it is in there.
we have a current balance within the IRF, or within the SURF, of nuisance housing rehab of $11,367.50. Now, we didn't, for professional services on nuisance properties, we have 52,000 in the budget. That includes 5,000 for weed and nuisance control, 45,000 for building demolition and nuisance abatement or tree removal. And then, also a little bit for legal opinions and license renewals. So that's the amount within the 52 for the professional services. So we didn't add any additional monies to the nuisance housing rehab, but there is money available within the IRF to,
So, but that is the money for that program?
What we've
It's
done in
just-
the past is if there's money left over in that 45, then I transfer 10 at the end of the year.
Okay. Good enough? Thank you.
so. If we can get people to use it, absolutely.
How do we promote that?
I don't have a good answer.
It's tough. I mean, it is tough to promote just because the amount of people who would use that program is probably fairly small. And when you're trying to get good information to a small amount of people, it's just tough, you know, so. I know, like in the springtime, I think, or a few months ago anyway, put a Facebook post out kind of promoting it at one point in time, and I don't know if it ever went out in the newsletter or anything with the bills or stuff, but
We have put in a newsletter on a periodic basis,
Yeah.
but it's,
Is this the program where they can get up to $3,000 to, if they also put in $3,000?
Yeah.
it's like a match grant.
Match.
Yeah.
50%.
I know that, like the housing committee, like we've been talking about like other ways to like promote. So I guess I'd be willing to hear like where we are with Jaleesa and all of those talks, because I know she was going to be putting together some information that was supposed to be coming to the commission at some point, just to get your eyes and thoughts on.
yeah. And kind of the idea behind this particular program was it's also kind of income based. So it's
Okay.
basically help those who are more in need of the assistance needing to do some structural improvements within their
Okay.
property, but. Okay, rant over.
The next set of items is within the street department. Again, we had a slight reduction just because of a certain amount of changeover. Reduced travel and transportation in both years a little bit. And I'll reduce the small amount off of reduced safety equipment. Probably the biggest item or one of the bigger items within here is reduce the amount transferred for the stage 2 of the project on Cherry Street, not Cherry, Cherry, between the railroad and Highway 24. It's basically split into 2 parts, stage 1 and stage 2. And we've been putting back for that over a number of years, and it basically reduced it from 35 to 20. And it's just for Kenton and his crew, looking to do stage 1, which is from Highway 24 to 19th, correct? And then the other one is the more difficult one between 19th and the railroad, because there's not a good way to bypass it. So there may be times when the road gets closed, which would be a little tough, especially for the businesses along there. So that's going to take some care and planning to be able to do that right. And it's also going to cost more. So, but he's been putting back for it in order to do it. And this is regarding the transfer on stage 2.
All I know is I'm one of those who drives that section of road several times a day. You know, it is, this winter was especially hard on that section more, and there's a lot of pretty rough spots in that section, and I just, prolonging it is longer than we need to. I don't know about that. I mean, I feel like that would be something I would want to see the money put back in, I think. for that project to be able to get it done, just because it is such a main thoroughfare. And it is, like I said, it had a pretty rough winter. And there are some pretty tough spots in that section.
And two, that was something else I had marked on my list as something I thought would be a priority to put back in. One of those maintenance things that we kick down the road to worry about later, and it comes back and bites us if we're not putting back enough right now to get it done.
It's kind of the same thought process that staff was going through, and that's why it's highlighted in yellow, as far as one of the key items put back in. Staff was just grabbing from everywhere in order to get down to the 47, so. We also have a reduction in replacing the roof within this. It's not eliminating it, it's just reduced as far as the amount. Reduce on the chip seal project, and it's basically a 10% reduction on the amount set aside. And one of the reasons was for that is that we're gonna have the cost share grant for redoing Caldwell, which is really where our monies are going. That's what it's going towards anyway.
Yeah.
In '24. The reduce the crushed concrete transfer, again, it's just reducing it, 25 to 20. And then eliminating the transfer for 1 year as far as the loader, the next loader to be in it, and start saving up for that item. And obviously, there's quite a few items, just because the street department uses a lot of different tools, a lot of different pieces of equipment in order to get their job done. So you can see it within the description. There's probably, 15 items there that they share or have included in their MRF list, Municipal Equipment Reserve Fund list. So that's one item. And the basic reason for that was that we ended up, hopefully we'll have a new loader by the end of the year. I don't know what the latest estimate in it is. It's like October, November, isn't it, Kent?
November, possibly, if they're thinking it might be January, but if it is, they weren't going to, that would be following through with what they recommended. They said that they would bring us, one of their rental units here, something that shows up. They said whatever it takes, they'll get it over. That one year was definitely,
Yeah.
See, we've got the street sweeper completely cut out of there. I thought we had mentioned at the last meeting that the one that we currently have is not in very good condition. Is that something that we need to consider putting back in?
Isn't it broke down right at the moment?
it is.
We have a current balance of $231,000 in the MRF for a street sweeper. And I just talked with Kent this afternoon. I meant to talk to him a little early, but I ended up talking to him this afternoon and saying, let's talk as far as and get actual quotes again. And he mentioned one vendor told him that, go ahead.
The key equipment is stuff that covers things just like ours. He told me that one identical to ours, but is up to 300,000.
Instead of 250.
Without the equipment. So we were looking at like $250,000, now we're looking at $300,000 per.
Cool.
Within the last 3 years.
So my mind immediately goes, that's a purchase to occur sooner rather than later, because in another year or two, it could go up another chunk.
Right now, technically, the street sweeper's running, it just keeps going hydraulic lines, which puts the sweeper mechanic out there dropping the entire lower end out there on the street. And because it's hydrostatic, so it all
it gets difficult to on-the-spot maintenance for it.
Mhm.
It's not an easy vehicle to fix, so. Once it's in the shop, it's fine, but I'm sure Levi gets frustrated, so.
I guess my opinion would be that we need to put the street sweeper back in the budget.
Or at least part of it.
Yeah.
Keep trying to get to the point, and then, but, you know, we haven't put it out for official bid or anything, but it might be something as long, that comes up sooner rather than later for an actual quote, and then make a decision upon it. And that doesn't mean that it has to be at one time either. There's other options. Done that previously, as far as either lease options or something like that. Or over a couple different, 3 different payments, so. But, that's why we're having these discussions, so you can provide direction. So the total amount within streets was 88,000. But if one of the items is put back, 15, that makes it down to 73. If we put the street sweeper back in, that moves it down to 48. So,
So you've got the loader in there highlighted instead of the street sweeper. I guess my question is, which one of those would be the bigger priority at this point in time?
we have difference of opinions between. So, and I think because we ended up purchasing the 2 loaders, but they use them a lot. It gets used a lot for a lot of different purposes. So, I don't know, Kenton, what's your opinion?
My biggest thing is, the older this equipment gets, my maintenance budget is very minimal. And so that means it costs more, older equipment costs more to keep up. I mean, I do have a New Holland loader that is, they got a part that's back ordered right now. Once it's done, they don't know when it's gonna come in, so you have to cycle the key 3 or 4 times to get it to run, so it's just, it's in limbo.
Yeah.
We're keeping our fingers crossed on that they can get a part for it. So, that's a tough call.
Street sweeper, you know, a lot of businesses
benefit from the street sweeper, and a lot of residential routes and the schools benefit from the street sweeper as well, so.
And the loaders, everybody benefits for snow removal. I mean, that's where the loaders shine the most, so. To me, it's never, it's hard to cut that equipment.
Yeah.
And we try to maintain it as best we can, so. We have some good equipment for a city our size, so, and they take care of it as best they can. Obviously, since the loader that we're replacing this year,
It's 30 years old.
33 years old, yeah. And is still operational.
So you'll get some return value off of it as well, hopefully.
That's the plan.
You gotta strap yourself in like a race car driver. So, you can decide on that after we finish going through the other stuff.
So on the, so he was talking about his minimum maintenance budget. Is that just the $6,500 that's in there?
55,
Huh?
55,000, I think, in maintenance.
No, equipment, okay, yeah, I was looking at vehicle maintenance.
Which last year, that New Holland went to the mechanic shop, cost $30,000, which was $45,000 that year, and they upped it to 50. We upped it to 55.
Hmm.
And in the description, which, those type of things in the description kind of help. both for the public and everybody else. That's providing repair for 26 pieces of large equipment and all kinds of different small items.
So is the split with like equipment maintenance and vehicle maintenance, like vehicles, like cars you drive?
Yeah, the trucks, like
Okay.
pickups, gas trucks, that falls under them. Vehicle maintenance.
How much money do you think it costs to repair the street sweeper every year? Too much?
It really depends on I think they're probably, right now, oh man, the hub assembly is really expensive. We've had to replace that a couple times, which is like $2,500. But it reminds you guys, I think 5 years ago, we sent off for a complete rebuild for $45,000. And we've been blowing hydraulic lines ever since we got it back, so.
Including the one I made today.
Two of them. So,
Now, does that also include, I mean, you replace the brushes and rollers.
yeah, those are just wear and tear, and that's just,
And that's gonna happen every year,
yeah.
no matter what.
We're replacing those daily. I would have to go back and look, see what we're actually spending yearly. I don't have that direct number, but we have spent a lot of money on our street sweeper. I do know Levi said that, the street sweeper, and I think Vince with Key Equipment said an average street sweeper should last 7 years, 4,000 hours. And we're on 13 years, 7,000 hours. So, that's all I can tell you on that.
And I think we were, from what we discussed and stuff there, I think I kind of erred in the same vein as Jason over here, that I think if I were to choose, if we were to put one of those back in, if we wanted to do so, I would probably go towards the sweeper as well, whether it be for the full amount or even partial amount of that, but especially if we're looking at still maybe a couple more years out of putting money away towards the cost of a new one, if the price has gone up as much as it sounds like it has.
Depend on Kenton's negotiating skills. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah,
Well, I would be in game for putting the 15,000 back in there, which would be the loader expense,
Instead
So
of
15
25.
towards the sweeper.
sweeper instead of the 25.
That gives us up to about 246. Set aside for it anyway. I think I'd be okay with that.
At least we're making headway towards both.
Wait, you're saying 15 for the sweeper and 15 for the loader? Both?
No, just
Or
for the sweeper.
one, just for the sweeper?
Just for the sweeper, I think is what we were saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
okay, then move on.
I believe so.
The next part is within the Parks Department. Again, removing the personnel costs for retirement page, and then it's reducing the transfers for the zero-turn mowers that are within the Municipal Equipment Reserve Fund. With the transfer in 23, this is talking about the transfers in 24. Was basically reducing from 4,000 to 1,500 just because it reached the expected cost of a little over 21 grand. Or just just over that amount. And then reducing the transfer 2,000 on the second zero-turn mower from set aside, reducing that from 6 to 4,000. Danny takes good care of his equipment along with Levi. And so obviously the zero-turn mowers need to be replaced, but on a timely basis. But we'll definitely be able to get one taken care of next year. And then it's just a matter of keep saving for the next one. So, and you have 3 ZTRs right now, right?
We have 3, one we keep in the parks and one goes to the ballparks. These one out there, and like I say, they're 2006 models, so 17 years old with over 3,000 hours on them. But the reason they're still running is the maintenance program we have, that what I can't fix or service goes to Levi, but and we can get local parts for them. But that's why they last as long as they do, is and they're 72-inch diesels. And then we do have a newer one that's a 2013, so it'd be 10 years old, with 2,500 hours on it. When you start mowing 32 acres, this year's 32 acres every other week. Now this year with the rain, those mowers run every day nonstop. And then we did buy that bagger mower for the water park, that 54-inch gas, but we use it every week at city office, art center, airport, museum, power plant, and water park. And it's got over 300 hours on it, but it gets used quite a bit now too. But that's where it'd been nice to have another mower this year, but we kicked it back another year just because, things were growing faster than we could mow it. Like I say, that's where, how they've lasted so long is just the service and the dealership we bought them from is, that's kind of unheard of, going over 3,000, not having the engines opened up yet to adjust valves and that on them. They're pretty amazing. We haven't split those engines open yet.
Now, obviously, both of those are highlighted in yellow. Those were highlighted to put back to the first amount as far as a suggestion.
Are we still at expected cost? Have we gotten another quote recently?
Yes. Well, I'd say probably 6-8 months ago, we're still running at 21.
Okay.
City gets that government discount, which helps. So, it's actually better to buy them outright than, we use one for a backup mower, or, we can sell them. But as long as they're running, I like to keep them for a backup mower, because if it fails, something's gonna go out.
There's not much, I guess, there's a little bit of return from them, but I guess it'd be more, in my opinion, it'd be more utilized to have something for backup.
It is.
Or for an additional person, just
Yep.
like this year.
Or to catch up if we
The
need somebody to jump on.
newer mower, it stays in town and does all the bluegrass. The older mowers, it goes out and it mows the garden lot, it mows all the lots, the garden lot, the armory, the water park lot, Van Gogh, Pioneer, anywhere it's a little rougher. That's where the older mower goes, and the newer one, it stays in town, does all the parks with the irrigation and the nicer stuff.
So with the reduced amount, we were talking about, to get one this next year, but that would be just taking the total amounts set aside for both of them, just use towards one and then starting the other one over.
Actually, you had an amount,
We had some in there.
yeah, there's a little amount in the second one.
Yeah, so we've got, there's 13,500 in one and 3,000 in the other. I was just trying to come up with $21,000 it costs to get one.
Well, we got a 6,000 transfer in 23 for the one, so that'll make it 19,500 for the first one.
Okay.
Oh, we're not seeing that.
So, and then the second one was at 3. And, that's why it was 6,000 dedicated. Just getting going on it. So, actually, if it ends up to be 21, wouldn't need the entire 4 for the first ATR. That cut could remain. If there's any, if it goes over for any reason, there is an amount for the second ZTR that can be applied to it. They aren't set in stone that it has to go for that particular ZTR. Or if Danny wanted racing stripes on his mower or anything or something.
Don't give them help any ideas.
I'm missing parks.
I guess I just wanna make sure we get at least where he can get the one. If that's the case, he needs to have, you know, one or other ones that's still running pretty decent for a backup.
Right.
Get you by until we can get you going for the next one, but.
And what's nice, if Kent has one like, when we kinda got behind, Kent had one sitting in the shop that his guys was doing something else, so we jumped on it and ran it a couple days, kind of caught up, so. Nice to have one sitting around.
I'm missing the parks portion. I go from streets to airport. Oh, I saw it, I just saw it.
Parks is
Is it-
next. It's at the
And
airport.
then there's the,
Yeah,
So half of,
around there.
thank you.
yeah, I skipped airport because there was nothing to cut in airport. so. Or realistic.
We're saying putting it back in the first one, then keeping the second one?
Well, I think if we leave the cuts the way they are presented, that will still get us enough to get the one
To get one
more
more
correct.
going.
Even if it requires maybe borrowing a little bit from the second one, I think is where we're at,
Okay.
if everybody's okay with that.
No, that makes sense. I was just wanting clarification.
The next amount was the 10,000 out of cemetery, and there was nothing within museum that was identified. So it's 2 down for the cemetery, and that was just putting the 10,000, basically using the cemetery improvement fund, which is a separate, it's outside of the general fund, it's a separate identified fund, and using that for the land purchase or setting it aside for land purchase. Out of that fund instead of out of the general, and that's the cut from the general fund.
When I saw the forest get past the museum, which congratulations, I'm not getting any cuts here. I will put in there that she made a note that the roof is in bad shape, it needs to be patched every year. And currently, we don't have any money set aside, started towards a new roof for the museum. So that's something we need to start seriously looking at soon.
Maybe, I haven't had a request for it, so.
Okay.
um,
Is that a metal roof, or I'm trying to think of the museum? Is it metal?
The problem is when they build onto the museum, that's where Sammy has the leaks, where the one building touches the other building. It's got that white elastic coating, and when it expands and contracts, Sammy gets a water bucket out, calls me, and then I get up there and patch it. And
So is it a repair or a replace?
probably repair.
Just not a patch repair, like a complete repair, whatever that
I
looks
mean,
like.
it's a metal roof on both of them, but it's got that white elastic
at the joint facing.
Yeah, where the new building touches the existing building. But you can tell it's been patched several times up there. And with the metal roof, it's starting to rust a little bit around the edges, so. So far, we've gotten by with patching, staff maintenance.
I think we probably need an estimate for repair and start planning the budget towards that.
I think we should put something away. I don't know how much you guys are okay with, but
And I didn't know anything needed to be done with this budget, I just wanted to bring attention to the fact that you put it in there.
or at least getting talks, conversation about it.
Yeah. So, yeah, first step would probably be to just figure out exactly what needs to be done to take care of the leaky issue, whether it's just fully replace where it connects together in some way or another, or what we need to. But
Okay. I agree with that.
Can I think something for it? 2,000, 2,500 or something to at least get started.
then we'll get a bit in there to
If you
add
have
something.
If you have some sort of inspection fee or something like that, I'm sure.
I'd be fine with that. $2,500 in there to start checking it out.
Guess there's the, next item is in recreation. I don't know how close that is to cemetery. It's two down. We had reduced the infield conditioner a slight amount from 3,000 to 2,000, and then basically cut in half the amount set aside for resurfacing the tennis courts. Obviously, that resurfacing of the tennis courts is not gonna be in the next 2 to 3 years, but it's much easier to do it a bit at a time, because it's about every decade or so it should be resurfaced, so.
I guess on that, this is more of a, just something I'd like to see, our contract with the GAC is pretty significant. That we do with them, and I don't know that I've ever, she's come in and kind of given a brief synopsis of, what they've done as far as what's doing with the contract, but I don't know if we've ever, or I've ever seen anyway, maybe a more financial breakdown of exactly how the money that we're giving them is being used in that. Like, just run it by them, see if they'd be willing to come to a Tess or board member or whoever, that maybe come and kind of give us a full breakdown of exactly how our funds are being used to help get all those services done that they're doing. Again, not necessarily budget specific, but just notes that I made on my papers as we were going that I wanted to share.
The, beyond the recreation then, there's the Stever Water Park, which is the last item, last department fund within the general fund. And we just had reduced pool improvements. That's really just the transfers to the SURF and the MRF. And it's 10,000 in each. We don't have any scheduled in 23. And that's why it was at the 10,000 level in '24 in the original request. And this is just reducing it to 8,000 in both of those. There is a balance, 46 grand in the SURF and 44 grand in the MRF. But, you know, is that enough to take care of the pool? If it's gonna be a big item, no. Take care of most items, yes, so. It's a question. But again, it was helping us get to the numbers that we're looking at.
That's something I had in mind too, as far as the pool. I don't know what it costs to get in our pool specifically, but I mean, Colby's is up to $5 and things like that, admission, and then of course you buy passes, it's cheaper. But it's with everything that I've been heard about the pool needing to be repaired and things like that, we're kind of low, I would think, in my opinion, as far
Yeah.
as,
And there was some slight increases this year.
Was there?
On some of that stuff.
okay.
But yeah, that's tough. 'Cause I've kind of asked the same questions as to, you know, how much should the fees for the pool be responsible for the maintenance of the pool?
Yeah.
And, you know, if you got the fees up high enough to actually cover the maintenance of the pool, nobody would ever come to the pool. So it is kind of it's a tough balance as to how much of it is, should it be responsible for itself, and how much of it is just, you know, it's a service that the city's providing during the summer, so, yeah, that's some tough conversations in prior years about the entry fees and stuff too, so. They come around every year, you know, you can sure look at them again come this next spring.
So we're looking at adding roughly 62,500 back into the budget. We, just from what I was trying to track while we were going,
Is that an accurate number up there that you have up, as far as we've been following along with what we've been saying?
I've been trying to, but I don't know if, yeah, it probably isn't 100% accurate now.
I have 10,000 for the police roof, adding back to be 30 or 15,000 for the stage 2 19, or the stage 2 19th Street project. 15 for the street sweeper, and then adding another 2,500 for museum roof.
Well, do you agree with the changes for the utility funds and the transfers to the general fund? As far as, that wasn't on your list, that was in the green up above. That would cost, that would be 30,000 there, and there's another 20 with electric, but that's more about that balance between utility funds and general fund. So that's an additional, if that's done, that's an additional amount. That would affect the final figure, obviously.
Oh, I don't have, okay.
Yeah, those weren't,
We don't have that.
those weren't in our initial. So that would basically take it up to roughly $100,000, what we'd
Yeah.
be looking at if we
Right.
went with those changes as well.
Right.
Which would probably price back up to, what, 51 mils-ish probably.
Well, we're 47.8, and it would be, yeah. But there's one item you didn't, of the ones in yellow. That's where
Yeah.
I'm a little uncertain, just like Josh was. I'll just go with the greens and yellows.
You want to scroll back up to the top there, Josh?
Yeah.
To what?
Scroll back.
The green,
To the beginning.
You're okay as far as the greens. That's okay at this point. And then, you know, when it comes to next week, you can make no further adjustment if need be.
So these changes basically would alleviate some of the stress on the utility funds, but would raise the mill
Right.
for those charges.
Adjust the amount on it. The one in yellow, as far as the planning consultation services and admin, leave that out, put it back in.
And you said this was not
Yeah.
That's not the
affecting
comprehensive plan
comprehensive
amount.
plan or anything, this is just for services that, like so far this year, we haven't
We
even
haven't
really
had to use
used.
it. no.
So, I think I'm okay with leaving that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the next two items, the armory roof and the one vehicle, it was basically just the roof and within the police department put back
I
in.
think we were adding that back in.
Yes.
Back in, yes.
Okay. And then.
The stage two,
Nope, the police armory roof.
yeah, I left that in.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the next yellows are in the street department, the stage two,
Yeah.
And
Put
doing a
that
full
back
total
in.
there.
put that back in. And basically playing hopscotch between the loader and the street sweeper.
Yeah, so left the loader out, but just 15 towards the sweeper.
Yes.
And then the zero turn mowers,
I think we left
Left
that
that
as
as
there.
Yeah.
so back in or leaving as is?
As is.
As it.
Okay, so the yellows are gone for the ground ZTRs.
Right.
Okay,
So leave them as they are in the budget?
Yep.
yes.
No,
No.
Well, with the
No.
change.
With
the changes.
Okay.
The proposed changes.
Don't add it back in. And then the pool improvements. In or out? The reduction in the pool.
Still,
I think we leave it out.
I think so too.
So eliminate those two changes.
But then we also had the 2,500 we put in towards whatever.
Museum
Towards
roof.
the museum roof.
right.
Whatever we need to do to start there. Y'all caught up? Good?
Yeah, I'm just looking at it's the plus the 20 for the electrical, that would be 94.5. As far as that bottom number. Except that's already included.
And I don't know, that we're looking to get the exact figure figured out right this moment.
Yeah, I'm just trying to give you an idea on it, but you're good with that as far as the next presentation total?
Yep,
Okay,
I think so.
Yep.
we'll figure that out.
We're understanding that's gonna probably raise the mill, whatever.
Yeah, so that's gonna go from the 40, so
You do,
the as presented with the changes was 47.876, and then we just added in basically $100,000 worth of additions back into that.
what's a mill?
41.8,
41.8,
basically. So 2.5, 2.25.
2.4 mils, roughly? Just that.
From the 47.8, so that would be 50.2. But you gotta realize that last year, or this year's budget that we're on right now, the mill levy was 48.876.
$876.
So that's actually an increase of 1.4 over this year's budget, is what it's saying. If that's what it ends up to be.
And that takes us back to the mill levy that we had before the first revenue neutral rate, pretty close.
Yeah. Right in the same ballpark where it's, for the
Been for
most of the
years.
last 20 years where it's been.
Same mill levy, higher valuation,
Yeah.
so it's more money, but same mill. approximately.
Okay. So that finishes general fund. Now the questions regarding utility funds or other funds. We basically made some changes to employee benefits regarding retirement stuff out of employee benefits. And that's the changes within that that is shown on your spreadsheet, change spreadsheet. Had a minor change in the airport. The airport fund, that's a separate identified ad valorem fund. Had a little bit of change with that. The original amount was 25, it was revised budget amount to 10. We use that for matching our grants and everything else.
Which there's still a pretty considerable chunk in there, I think. So I feel like nobody's been more lucky than the airport the last few years when it comes to not having to spend money and getting lots of things done, so. I have no problem with taking a cut there if need be.
Now, as far as the utilities, they each have their amounts. I included that in the presentation on the utilities. We don't have an absolute answer, it's more looking at direction from, there's some minor amounts that we reduced, either salaries because of vacancies in sewer and reducing the insurance in a couple different places. small amounts, and that's property insurance and liability insurance and those type of things, mainly property. Because all three utilities have different items that fall under that property insurance, so. And then it has a certain amount, the changes to the general, and also the reduce the transfer on the sewer line main project, 12,000. That was 48,000 within the sewer. I don't know why it's first listed on the little spreadsheet, but that's the way it is. You know, our original presentation showed you that we were using the entire cash balance in the main sewer fund, not the sewer reserve fund. Was using the remainder of it within the budget. Now, each of these utilities, it's rare when we are able to spend every last nickel that's budgeted in the items that are identified. There may be bigger projects here or bigger projects there, but then we don't have time and effort to spend it in other areas of the budget, so you don't end up spending the entire thing. But like within your books, it shows 600 in budget of 642,000 total in expenditures, with $614,000 in revenues. With the 48,000 in changes, that obviously eliminates at least the deficit, but that doesn't bring us back to even. If we weren't gonna use the cash balance, we would need to do some more. But we have some major things occurring with both the sewer fund, the water fund, and the electric fund, and trying to keep those up to date. So for the budgeting process, we'll need staff direction what you want to do, or it may be a discussion later regarding rates as we come out. Because within the budget themselves, I don't think they're extravagant. They're trying to maintain the systems that we have. And dedicating the resources to do that. And it's costing more money in each of those utility funds to do the work. And luckily, the last couple of years, we've had ARPA money to assist for the big project at the wastewater treatment plant. And also for the sewer main relining project that is going to occur this month. The ARPA money is not renewable. So we probably would have had this discussion 2 years ago. But the ARPA money has kind of allowed us to delay that decision, but that doesn't mean the decision doesn't need to be made. So that's what the point of all those graphs with the three utility funds is. We can't just keep eating the cash balance. So. And there's on your spreadsheet is an amount, an item of 22,000 in the water, which the water utility is $1.4 million in revenues, but we have $1.2 million in revenues. I mean, $1.4 million in expenditures, $1.2 million in revenues. On the first page after the tab is basically the shortcut sheet. And we do have reserve funds beyond the main general utility fund. And I tried to show, staff tried to show that, shouldn't say just I, because it was more people, but tried to show that both in, the electric and water and sewer. Yes, those reserve funds are there, but it doesn't take much of a big project to exhaust those. And we are going to have a presentation on the water towers. There's a couple of things regarding water towers that need to be addressed now. That's gonna be some dollars. So, but I think for the long term, and I think that's the messaging, is we need to start addressing these utility funds and with reasonable expectations. And not just hopes and if, ands, or buts, hoping that this doesn't happen or that doesn't happen. And so, and then and I'm just doing it in general, because I don't really have any specific line items for you to address. And like in the electric, it looks big. We have 6.5 million in revenues, the first page after the tab. But we have 6.8 million in expenditures. So that uses most of that cash balance in the regular, I don't know what to call it, the regular electric fund. So that it run, if we were able to spend that entire amount, or had to because of the purchasing the power agreement, we would be down to 112,000 in the electric fund. And I showed you a graph that 10 years ago, we were over $2.5, almost $3 million in that reserve. And we've continued and continued and continued. And you asked a good question, Mayor, last time, and I do want to follow up on that. I'm not able to follow up completely on it. But I do think one of the answers that you said, well, how do other communities handle, how can they have lower rates than we do? I don't think they'll have lower rates for very long, for one.
Yeah.
Because I checked the major utilities both on the east side of Kansas and all over in Colorado. The major utility for the east side of the state has a proposal to raise rates $14.50. And that's with 600,000 customers. So it's affecting both large utilities and small utilities. And the big provider in Colorado has raised rates every single year for the last 5 years. And so I find it difficult for people, every electric utility is facing this dilemma. It's costing more to maintain the system that we currently have. And I think our utility, our departments do a better job of maintaining the system we do have. And they address problems before it gets critical. And I think because we've spent that money, we have a better system. So, but if we aren't gonna have the funds or resources to do it, then it won't cause a problem the first year, but every year that it's not, it becomes an issue. And we can stop doing some things, but it will cause bigger problems down the road. So that's, I don't know. Is that a good summation, Dustin and Neil? So do you want staff, I guess the main question, I would probably have to go back to the PowerPoint. What is your staff direction regarding the utility fund as far as the budgeted authority? Because that's what you're actually setting out here for, is what's the authority for the budget? Do you want us to do additional items to get us back to even? I mean, even as in a profit loss statement.
the revenues match the expenditures. I think we got, with this additional small number of items that you have here, we at least got them so that we'll show in the budget that there's a cash balance at the end of '24. Small one. But, and we're still eating part of that cash balance through '24. In all three of those. Do you want staff to do more? To show more within the budget? Or do you want to leave it as is? Do you want to have a different discussion after budget regarding rates? Because I don't think we'll be able to have a full discussion regarding rates before budget is complete.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, in my opinion, probably the best route is to, even if we just go forward with these very minor proposed changes, just to, try to show that there's a little bit balance left over, but to seriously have good discussion regarding the rates and what we need to do there to get us in a better place moving forward, I think is probably the best line of attack, and for the long run, for sure.
My thought on the rate deal, that's, we need to do something and have something set to where it increases a minute amount every year instead of, we got something big that happens and we have to come up with a lot more money. A little bit is easier to handle every year than just a large amount. That's my thought on the rates, but I think we go ahead with what is here too, set forth, and we'll deal with the rates later.
Agreed.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's not a fun talk no matter what, but.
I mean, I think it's put pretty well, when it's talked about in the sense that, nobody, anytime you raise anything in any regard, in any aspect of your life, nobody likes it. But, I like it less if all of a sudden the power's off for an extended period of time because we had some big malfunction that we can't get a part for a period of time, and we don't have anything in place to fix it. Or all of a sudden I can't flush my toilet for a while because something major happened, and it's gonna cause some big financial heartbreak to fix whatever needs to be done. To me personally, I would much rather have to face the fact of possibly spending a little bit more on my utilities to prevent things like that happening. But I think we're not saying that we're gonna raise rates right now. We're saying it's what we need to seriously discuss and look at and see how changes could affect things in the future. But as far as the budget goes, I'm okay with how it's presented here, as far as the budget goes.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean that there will be approval for any rates, differences in rates going forward. And we may have to amend the budget if we would end up with different rates. But what you're setting out right now is the authority.
Yeah.
So, and I think you're also letting the public know that there'll be some tough decisions upcoming. And if not, we can show that we can get by one more year. But I start to let people know that we're kind of upside down in all three.
what things are trying to get done, so we have effective systems.
So I would like to hope and think that, at least for the people who do pay attention to everything that goes on with what we're doing, that they do appreciate how much work that our departments have done to maintain things and keep things the cost down on things to the best of their abilities over these last couple of years, where it's just become more and more difficult to do that. But like you said, at the expense of draining reserves and making it tougher and making it tougher, and you can't do that forever. You know, at some point, something's gotta give, either way, either you're spending more or you're providing less.
Well, and that doesn't mean also that there isn't additional regulations or requirements, especially in the water and sewer field, they continue to put on us, and of course, they don't provide additional funding for that.
Yeah.
But, and it's happening a little bit with the electric as well, so. We can put that together, we can present it, we can let you guys munch on it, muddle on it over the next week. And when we present next Monday, what staff will do is present to you a proposed budget, also a proposed resolution for exceeding the R&R rate. And then basically we have to put a number in that resolution. And you guys can change that on Monday if you want, whatever would eventually get passed. And then that's the maximum number we can have. But we have to have that information to the county clerk by a week from Friday or a week from Thursday, one of those two.
20th.
What's that?
20th.
So Wednesday.
Yeah, that day.
20th.
No, 20th is a Thursday.
Is it a Thursday? Yeah. Give or take a day.
So we will have that resolution that will set the R&R hearing. There'll be a little bit of a gap, because whatever decisions we make next week, then we send the information to the county clerk. They send letters out to all homeowners, or everybody with a mailing address in Goodland. And then we have to publish a notice in the newspaper. And so the hearing will be held early September. And then that will be the public hearing. And then, but basically, the one thing that can change, or that can't change once we send the notice to the county clerk, is that maximum number.
Yeah, right.
And we can change any other line item within the budget that we would like. And either in between time or when, and then for that public hearing. And then at the public hearing, if the public comes in and demands something, whatever way, you guys can make that decision. You just can't go out. But you can change the budgeted authority within funds or within departments that you want to do at the hearing. And then once you approve the budget after the public hearing, then that's what's sent to the state. And that's what's sent to them. So that's basically the schedule from here on out. Any questions, concerns, comments, or complaints? Are we good, staff?
I hope so.
To come up with a document?
Anybody else have any other questions, comments? Well, we want to thank everybody for, this was a very good budget discussion, I felt. A lot of good things we talked about, and I appreciate But no one has anything else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Redland,
Second.
second by Commissioner Howard. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.